Hello. Hello, everyone. It's the first time I take this 16 hours flight from Tel Aviv to San Francisco. So I'm a bit disoriented. So if I say something stupid, please be understanding. So my name is Eyal Hertzog, and I one of the founders of Bancor Protocol. You heard about Bancor Protocol? I try to understand, like it's fully crypto audience, right? Everyone is kind of understand crypto. That's good. And I've been actually entrepreneur since '98. '98, I was actually here in Sunnyvale. The first company I worked for was acquired by Cisco. It was the first international acquisition of Cisco, and I moved here. And then a little Israeli company called ICQ. You heard about ICQ? Huh? Yep. So it was sold to AOL for $400 million. And I was like, I was a user myself, and I was like looking at this news, I couldn't believe it. I said, they sold that for $400 million? I can build that. And I've been trying ever since. Apparently it's more complicated. But I've done a few things. I started a company in '98, following ICQ. I started a social network here in the Valley. You know, the .com crash. I mean, you're kind of looking at it. I was riding the wave like crazy. We raised like $15 million from Excel. I mean, we created a social network in '98. It was a hot topic because no one knew about social networks. So it was like a very easy sell. And then the .com crashed, and then I moved to my next project, which was MetaCafe, a video sharing website, second only to YouTube, but who remember the second? We actually started around the same time. We released the website. We had like an application before that, but I had like a very important lesson from that experience, because I thought that online video is going to be like TV, so like the hits are going to be, and like you have like hits on TV, you're going to have the same thing on online video, and apparently it's nothing like that. I mean, if we compare what YouTube videos everyone like to watch here, it's probably we cannot find the same channel, because there's a long tail. YouTube is all about the long tail. There's so much, and everyone is like focusing on what interests him, and I didn't see that when I created MetaCafe, and it was my job to see it. But it it left me with a very important lesson about the long tail. I learned a lot about the long tail, and I became a user of the long tail in 2010, when I started to kind of just watch videos 10 hours a day, and lectures and documentaries and conspiracies and what have you. And I was watching all this stuff online, and May 2011, I have to say, on a hardcore conspiracy video podcast, I learned about Bitcoin. And I saw Bitcoin, and I was like completely amazed, because I was like, oh my God, this is the first user-generated money. And it's working. People are trading it all over the world, user-generated money. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, this time I'm not going to do the same mistake. This time I know there's going to be a long tail of user-generated currencies. And 2012, we started a company called AppCoin. And AppCoin was, we're hosting in our offices Mastercoin, today Omni, anyone knows? So it was like one of the first ICOs, yes. I think there was like a smaller one before that, but it was like the first major one. And it was like one of the solutions to create for user-generated currencies. I mean, Omni was a solution. Tether today is still running on Omni. There was a colored coin, which was another solution. There was AppCoin, and AppCoin was not even blockchain-based. We were like just cloud service for user-generated currencies with integrated marketplaces. So we released that beginning 2013. The first target was a community of moms in Israel, like 30,000 moms. And we told them, hey, you should have your own currency. And like, why? It took like 3 meetings of 3 hours each to explain why they need the currency, but eventually they got excited about it. And they launched their own currency and marketplace. We call the currency Hearts. And it was an immediate hit. I mean, moms were starting to trade jewelry and clothes, and you know, their kids' clothes that are too small, and the toys that the kids got bored with, and you name it, or even a vacation in some summer house. And we had like 1,000 transactions a day by moms, not even techies, you know, using smartphone. And we got really excited. We thought, oh my God, you know, if this is what happens when you let a group create their own currency, this is going to change the world. And then we discovered, first of all, that if you go to other communities that are not moms, it's actually harder. Because apparently, moms, at least in Israel, I don't know how it is exactly here, but they do most of the shopping. And they take care of like most of the household needs. And this made them, you know, very keen users of this platform. But with other groups, it was harder. But that was not actually the main issue. The moms themselves, we saw that there was like a huge peak, like a huge usage peak, 30 minutes per day per user, like amazing numbers, a lot of transactions, but then a very slow decline over like a year. And we're looking at, well, what's the problem? Why is it declining? And we researched and we asked. I won't take you through all that process because it really took us a long time, but we got to a very simple and clear conclusion, that the problem was lack of liquidity. The fact that those hearts were not convertible to the dollars or shekels or anything else and back, this created a problem. It created an island, which is like having a computer network that is useful, right? I was running a very useful 1,000 computer network when I was in my military service in Israel. This is one of the good things about Israel. They take you, to the military at the age of 18. I'm like a developer and a professional developer. And at the age of 21, I'm running like a huge network. So I got a lot of experience. It was a great service, a great utility, but it was not connected to the internet. It was still good. But when you connect a network to the internet, it becomes like 1,000,000 times more useful than just a network that's not connected. And the same thing goes with currencies. And if you have a currency which is not connected to any other currency in the world, meaning it's not liquid, it could still be useful. But you can't even compare how more useful it will be when you connect it to all the financial network of the world. I mean, liquidity is the internet of value. My ability to convert my shekels to dollars, to Apple stock, to Bitcoin, to bonds. This is how we move value between different networks of value. And we started to think, can we solve it? Is it solvable? We realized it's important for the long tail of user-generated currencies. So we started to play with different kind of models, like having kind of reserves that held by the different communities. We actually connected different communities, but we never connected them to the real world, to the national currencies. We were able to connect between the different user-generated currencies and enable liquidity between them. Again, not such a big deal, because imagine you connect two private networks, but none of them is connected to the internet. It's not so much more valuable, but it could be useful. And then then Ethereum came out. You know, as we were struggling to figure out how we want to move about it, we had some concepts, some of them were really bad ideas, but then Ethereum came out, and Ethereum, you know, actually advertised itself as a platform, first of all, for tokens, and that was the killer app with Ethereum, the first killer app, the ability to issue your own money. So first of all, we were very happy because we felt, okay, we probably are on the right direction if issuing your own currency is such a big deal. And we started to think, can we solve the liquidity problem on Ethereum? And after many months of thinking and trying and you know, testing different models, we got to the Bancor protocol, what we have today. And the idea behind Bancor protocol, we didn't realize it until kind of, I think, a month before we came out and kind of told the world what is Bancor protocol, which was February 2017. But the idea is that it's a different approach to liquidity. Now that sounds big, and it is big. It's big enough for people not to understand it, because we have a real problem of communicating this value to the world. And I think Ethereum had the same number. The first time I heard about Ethereum and people told me, oh, it has smart contracts and you can write code, I didn't see why that is useful or for what. It actually takes a long time for someone to really understand what is the potential of smart contracts and what are the kind of things that you can do with it. And the same goes with Bancor, because Bancor is actually taking an approach to liquidity that I'll try to explain it in a very simple way, but I want to make sure that everyone understands it. And if you don't, please ask questions and I'll answer on real time. But imagine that you have 2 buckets of money, okay? Now, I have 2 buckets of money. One holds Ether, and one holds BNT, which is Bancor Network Token, just as an example. And I'm an automatic market maker, and I'm really simplistic in my thinking. So I have one bucket here of Ether worth $1 million, and one bucket here of BNT worth $1 million. And I want to make sure that BNT is always liquid. In fact, as liquid as Ether. So Ether is like traded in thousands of exchanges. I want to make sure that BNT is as liquid as Ether. However, it should be in the market price, right? It shouldn't be just liquid at any price. So the way that those bucket works is that if someone is providing Ethers and putting into this bucket, he's taking BNT from that bucket. If someone is providing BNT to that bucket, he's taking Ether from this bucket. Now, because I am a very simplistic automated market maker, from my perspective, whatever is in this bucket is equal to here. So when I think like that, whatever is here is equal to there. If I put more Ether here and took BNT from there, then now I have more Ether, less BNT. So guess what? The price of BNT went up. And every time I do it, the price of BNT will go up and go up and go up and go up, and actually create incentive for the other side to do the opposite. Imagine that BNT is traded in 15 other exchanges, which it is. So if the price becomes like higher than the market price, this will create an arbitrage opportunity for someone to do the other direction. To actually put in BNT and take out Ether in a great price. Now there's no spread here, and there is something called slippage. Slippage meaning that if I buy more, the price will change. Because the way that we calculate here, this is like the big innovation of Bancor. The way that this is calculated is that yes, you can put Ether here and you can take BNT from here. Yeah, but from a mathematical perspective, you can only put like 1 cent at a time. You know, it's like infinitely small piece, and take from here. So as you do this action, you put Ether, you take BNT, the price change as you put more. So if I'm now putting 10 Ether or 100 Ether, I will get a different price, because it would be as if I converted it cent by cent to the other, and got the price that reflects the new balance between those two buckets. Now those two buckets, if you think about it, they can never be drained out. Because as I put more Ether, the price of BNT will go to infinity. And as I put more BNT, price of Ether will go to infinity. So it can never run out, and it creates a situation that there is no liquidity risk. It's a guaranteed liquidity at all time. And interestingly, you can use the same system on stock markets. It's not a problem. You can have like those two buckets be US dollars and Apple. And then anyone can buy Apple. Whenever they buy, the price will go up. Anyone can sell Apple. Whenever they sell, the price will go down. And the two sides will balance each other. And the price will always get to this equilibrium point where you have the same volume of buying and selling. Was that confusing? Any questions about that?
That is just a theory, right? Is that just a theory?
It is not a theory. It is not a theory.
Can you please explain why you were doing all this?
Why do we do that? So first of all, just to show that it's not a theory, I hope that it will load. Oh, yes. So you see that? It's a hard day today, by the way. It's a tough day, but if you've been through Bitcoin, you know, when I saw Bitcoin 2011, I wrote email to all the people in my address book. Go get this thing, you know, go buy it. I showed graph, it's gonna change the world. And then people wrote me back, you have a virus. and I was like, sending everyone another email. And I was like, no, it's not a virus, it's your friend Eyal, the entrepreneur, you know me. This is real, you should get it, you should buy it. And the price was $6 and $8 and then $12, and people were buying it. It got to $30, and people were, oh, this is amazing, and then it crashed to $2. So everyone that listened to me lost money. Beautiful. This is how you should start in the crypto world, to get you tougher, you know. So anyway, this is Bancor, and it's working right now. There's like a volume, sometimes $5 million a day, sometimes $9 million a day, so it depends. And this system that I just described is work with any one of those tokens. For example, here, you actually have on EOS, you have on those buckets, you have, it's probably less today, but when we put it, it was $20 million of EOS in one side, and $20 million of BNT on the other side. So the way that we build it, it's always with BNT and another token, and BNT is convertible to Ether, so BNT is like the liquidity network. But the point is that this is a guaranteed liquidity mechanism to EOS. And you ask, what is the reason? Because there is such a thing called low liquidity. There is such a thing that called liquidity risk. But those things do not exist with Bancor. Those things only exist when you connect buyers and sellers, when you matchmake them, which is cool. It's like having a phone call, right? You need, at the same time, two people need to talk. But guess what? With Messenger, you don't have that problem because it's asynchronous. This is an asynchronous exchange. That's the whole idea with those two buckets. You can come now, you can convert EOS to Ether. And you don't need anyone on the other side converting Ether to EOS in order to complete that transaction. So you don't, you know how it is that you always kind of look at the volume to know if you'll have liquidity, right? You see, what's the volume, right? Not with Bancor. Bancor protocol completely disconnect volume from liquidity. Two different things. Because the liquidity is determined by how big those buckets. And with EOS, that has like a bucket of $20 million, guess what? It's a high liquidity. In $20 million bucket, if you convert, I don't know, $500 million, like, not $500,000 of EOS, like right now, the price will move 2%. It's not so big for instant transaction of $500,000 of EOS. Why? Because the liquidity pool is 20 million. It's usually close to that kind of percentage of the liquidity pool. So you can think $20 million liquidity pool, $1 million transaction, you'll have a 5% movement in the price whenever you buy. But when the price moves, again, it creates an opportunity for the other side. It means that if you're now selling EOS, you can sell it 5% higher than the market price because there's no spread. There's no market maker in this model. Market makers are an important part of our economy. Some would say it's the biggest part of our economy. Those big banks in Wall Street doing a lot of market making. You don't need it. Not with Bancor. This is a market takers solution. No need for market making. Why? Because of those buckets. It's like, you can make the analogy that if exchange is like a car, and a market maker is like the Uber driver, and a market taker is the passenger getting the service. So Bancor protocol can be compared to a self-driving car technology. It's a very simple concept. There's a very profound implication of who is required in this new ecosystem. So when we talk to any ICO that is planning or even that has done the issuance of a new token, we have a very simple sell. We're like, you want liquidity at all time, on-chain, decentralized. Actually, you can use that with a widget. I can show you that, but you can put that as a widget on your website. And anyone with MetaMask, popular Ethereum wallet, can, using a single transaction, purchase your token or liquidate your token from and to Ether with a single click. So it's a very easy sell for people that issuing token because the liquidity risk is very, very fundamental. Today there's a big deal of being listed on exchange and making sure that you have liquidity for your users. But this solved it for the token issuer. You have a question?
So, in your example with 2 coins,
yeah.
You buy Bancor, you sell the other, vice versa. I understand that makes sense. When you have a whole bunch of coins, or 2,000
Yeah.
cryptocurrencies,
I can show you that.
is it a bundle of cryptocurrencies that you would then sell?
So let's say
Or that you buy?
I want to buy with Ether, I want to buy DAI. Okay, let's say it will calculate and everything. You see, in the user interface, you can just put any token to any token. And the reason is because the liquidity is achieved through an Ethereum transaction. A simple Ethereum transaction that send one token and get the other, we can actually line those transactions one after the other. So what will happen here, essentially, is that your Ether is going to be converted in that single transaction to BNT. BNT will be converted to DAI. And those 2 transactions will happen in a single action. So this allows you essentially any token to any token. And this is exactly why we build the Bancor network with the pairs that always BNT and something else. Because when you connect everything to BNT, then you can get from any token to any token within 2 steps. And we're just starting with Ethereum because we see Ethereum as just one blockchain. For example, I'm very bullish on EOS. I think that, as a user, as a very heavy user of the Ethereum blockchain, I don't know how many people are running today applications that process millions of dollars on top of Ethereum blockchain today. But we do that. So we have the full experience of using this platform. And let me tell you, it's not always fun. It's a very immature environment. There are a lot of problems, and the user fees are just It's horrible. The fact that the anti-spam mechanism is based on charging fees of end user, it's a big problem. There are other solutions. For example, EOS, they solve it in a completely different manner. That's based on staking. There's no fees when you want to issue a transaction. So we're looking at Ethereum as just one blockchain. We expect to see many blockchains. And the liquidity network that we create, this is how we define what we do. The liquidity network is about to be spanned across multiple different blockchains. So BNT, you will be able to move that token between Ethereum to Ethereum Classic to EOS to Rootstock on Bitcoin to whatever. And when you have a token that you can move between blockchains, and technologies to enable that are being I would say, released in these very days. There are several efforts. There's a Metronome, there's Block Collider, there's Ion, there's Polkadot, many different solutions for cross-blockchain technology. But the way that we see BNT is not a blockchain, it's a liquidity network. You actually stake BNT as much as you want liquidity. So if you want more liquidity for your token, you stake let's say you stake $1 million of BNT, then you can handle transaction a few tens of thousands of dollars without those transactions affecting the price too much. But if you stake like $10 million of BNT, you can handle transaction of hundreds of thousands of dollars without affecting the price so much. So it's really based on what the issuer wants. But the idea is that as you stake more BNT, you have bigger bandwidth to the liquidity network. And if you notice, I use those analogies of network to liquidity because it is a network for the first time. The current system of using exchanges and traders and market makers is not a network. It's like saying that we have a bunch of networks and people running between them with floppy disk and we call that the internet. That's not the internet. The internet doesn't require labor in order to connect between networks. And today, to move value between different networks of value, it requires actual labor of people working. And guess what? Making money out of it. But when you have a protocol like Bancor, it's just a transaction. Those tokens essentially become connected using those, we call it a token relay. Token relay is actually connecting two tokens to each other on the blockchain level. In a way that provide consistent and perpetual liquidity between them. Now one may ask, so how come no one used that on exchanges? So the answer for that is, why did they start with Encarta and not with Wikipedia? You remember Encarta? The encyclopedia, right? This was a big deal on the internet in the beginning. It took us years to understand that the internet enabled us to build a different kind of encyclopedia, one that works in a completely different way. We didn't get it at the beginning because whenever there's a new technology, what we do is we replicate the old technology over the new one. And that's what we did with exchanges as well, with stock markets. Because before the computerized stock markets, people were screaming, I'm buying for 20, I'm buying for 40, people were like shouting on the floor and closing deals, and we replicated that very model to the stock markets. But you could use a different model that, again, based on those liquidity pools, if you will, that would guarantee liquidity at all time. You'll never have a liquidity risk. And more importantly, you will solve one of the fundamental structural problems with stock markets and bid-ask market that we use today, which is pump and dump. Now, pump and dump is a market failure. The fact that you can even do that, the fact that countries all over the world needs to write laws against pump and dump, and that the market cannot deal with it on its own, is a major flaw in the current system. And guess what? There's no solution for that in the crypto markets. In fact, most of the spam that we see on our groups, on our social media channel is by pump and dump groups. People like recruiting traders to their own pump and dump Telegram group or what have you, in order to organize, in order to pump some whatever token, and they tried to do it with BNT a few times. It was a complete failure, because guess what? Those two buckets, they don't care about your pump and dump. If you're going to pump your token, someone's, oh, you know, but I can still buy it here for cheap. So they will just buy and sell it to the pumpers and sell it to the pumpers and fill those buckets, and you know, it will block that effort. Because when the way that pump and dump is done is by two people trading, you know, with each other on kind of a friendly basis, or you trading with yourself essentially. Because what you see on those graphs, on those all those trading sites, is a hearsay. It's like two people that you don't know, they had a deal and they, you know, this token was sold for that price. And that's what you see on the graph, the last trade. Here, the prices you see here is not the last trade. It's the next trade. It's the next trade. Because this is the price of the automated market maker that is willing to, you know, to give to everyone. And whenever someone is using that, it will affect that price. And because everyone is trading with that and not with each other, you cannot trade with yourself. Now, it's important to say this system works together with exchanges. So BNT is traded on 15 different exchanges. Now, the price is always perfectly aligned between Bancor and all those 15 other exchanges. And the reason that it's aligned is thanks to arbitrageurs. Because if it's not, arbitrageurs will fix that immediately and make sure that it is. Because if it's not, it means that there is an incentive to align it. Let's say the price is low here and expensive on an exchange. You will buy it at Bancor, you will sell it on the exchange. When you buy it in Bancor, you actually increase it. When you sell it on the exchange, you decrease the price there, and until the point that they are aligned. And this is actually how all the prices between all the exchanges remain relatively aligned with each other. It just works the exact same way with Bancor, and this enables this solution to be backward compatible. It's not like you need to switch to Bancor. You just add it. It's just like another exchange, but it's another exchange that guarantees liquidity, immune from pump and dump, and enable all of that to happen on-chain, completely decentralized, no counterparty risk, no one can hack to your funds. It just happens with a single transaction. Yes, please.
So if you're exchanging between, let's say, BNT and DAI, how is the exchange rate determined? Is this a consensus of like?
No, so it's a very simple. The exchange is determined as I said in the beginning, when you have those two buckets, okay? Let's say you said BNT and DAI. There's two buckets. Let's say there's $1 million of BNT, $1 million of DAI on those two buckets. Now, if you want to convert BNT to DAI, you essentially add BNT to this bucket and you take DAI from that bucket. As you do that, the rate changes. Because for the automatic market maker, whatever is here equal whatever is here. Now you have more BNT here because you just added BNT, and you have less DAI here because you just took some DAI out of, so the price changes. Because if all of this equal all of this, this affects the price. So whenever someone is using this automated market maker in order to convert anything to anything, that action affects the price, and essentially always making whatever you're buying more expensive as you buy it. This is how the prices are calculated, and you can see that in the white paper. Yes, please.
As a follow-up on that particular example, since DAI is a stablecoin, how does the change in price affect the actual change in DAI stock?
So DAI is a stable coin, and the way that it works is that if you, let's say you buy DAI, and now you bought it, you bought a lot of it, and you got it to the point that it's now $1.05 per die. That's the price of Bancor. The minute that happens, someone who can always get die for $1 and sell die for $1, gonna look at it and say, hey, this is an amazing opportunity, because on other places you can buy and sell DAI for $1, right? It's a stable coin. Just like Tether, right? It's always dollar. So someone will look at it and say, oh, this is an amazing opportunity. I'm gonna buy DAI for $1 and I'm gonna sell them at Bancor for $1.05. And as he does that, the price will go back to dollar. At which point he can now no longer make money, so he'll stop. So, and again, this is not different than how those dynamic works between exchanges today. It just, we usually don't give a lot of thought to that. But it's the same mechanism, it's the same dynamic.
So would you say that atomic swaps are complementary to the Bancor protocol?
No, atomic swaps are very, very different. I mean, they can be complementary, but they're very different than what we do, because atomic swaps are still matchmaking two parties that, you know, exchange with each other. This is why we don't call it exchange, because there's no exchange taking place here. There's actually a name for this problem. It's called the double coincidence of wants problem. And it was coined many years ago, and it means that if, you know, it sounds sophisticated, it's very simple. This is what money solves for barter. Without money, you have the double coincidence of one problem, because whenever you have tomatoes and I have potatoes and I need to find someone that will, you know, want my potatoes and give me his tomatoes, it's really hard to find two parties that each needs what the other side has. It's rare occasion, it's rare event. But money helps us kind of solve that, because I can sell my tomatoes to someone, and then I can take this money and buy potatoes from someone else. So I solve that coincidence problem. And this is essentially what we do for asset trading. We solve the double coincidence of one, because today on exchanges you have the double coincidence of one problem, because whenever you want to convert Bitcoin to Ether, you need to find someone who wants to convert Ether to Bitcoin. And you might not be able to find that person, not in the exchange you're using right now, and then that leads to low liquidity. Low liquidity means that when you buy or sell, you affect the price too much, to the point that you don't want to buy or sell. There are a lot of people sitting a lot of crypto, you know, they might want to sell it if there was high liquidity, like between the US dollar and the euro, there's very high liquidity. You dump like hundreds of millions on this market, you're not going to change the price by nothing. But that's obviously not the case with every other market, or with every other stock, or with every other token. It's lower liquidity, but with the double coincidence of wants, it makes it much worse. And with the Bancor system, there is a level of liquidity which is guaranteed. And again, it has to do with the size of those liquidity pool and nothing else. Now, just one question that I have. How many people here are thinking about or involving in some kind of token issuance? Okay, so some people. So one thing I wanted to kind of share about that when you don't have a liquidity problem and you want to design your token model, then you can actually design a model that has several tokens. Usually, if you want to design some kind of a model, then usually you'll have one token, because you say, you know, it's going to be hard to get this token listed on exchanges, being liquid. That's challenging enough. So, you know, having several tokens sounds completely crazy. But using this protocol, you can actually build a model that is based on many different tokens. One of the examples that you know, I was discussing with someone a few months ago was that someone from LA, and they wanted to tokenize songs. Because they say, you know, famous songs, they have royalties. And you're gonna get these royalties for the next decades. But let's say someone is buying the song and you want to sell 50% of the royalties. So now you're going to have a token for each song. That sounds, like many tokens. Oh, for each popular song, many tokens. And definitely not going to get listed on Exchanger or anything like that. But when you use Bancor protocol, it doesn't matter that you have a lot of tokens. You can always buy them, you can always sell them, and the price will always react to the market dynamic. It doesn't matter if someone is buying them today and next trade will be in a week from now, another person will buy them, and in 2 weeks someone will sell them. Again, the price will follow the market dynamics, no matter what the volume is. So it enables new models of multi-token economies that we haven't even started to kind of consider and see live in production yet. But now they are possible, and there are several projects that are actually leveraging this capability. Any more questions?
You had to do it over again with the US. You said you were a fan of the US.
I am a fan of EOS, but they're not out in the next 6 months. So, and I think, it's very important to have a product out there. I think I hold the theory that you don't even start developing your product until it's out. Only when it's out, because before it's out, it's just your theories and your thoughts and ideas, but it never actually met real users on real usage. But when it's out, it's when you start learning about what you're building and who you are as a brand and as a company, and I think it's very important. So I'm happy that we did it with Ethereum. If I do something different, yeah, probably. We had this policy of 1 hour minimum on our ICO. Which was, the idea was very simple, is that everyone that want to invest, that kind of learned and heard and researched Bancor before, so just in the first hour we'll let all of them in, but then we're going to impose the cap and everything, because we didn't want money that follows money. We wanted everyone that were like part of the community. It was a big community, a lot of enthusiasm, and we didn't want to kind of have them compete with each other, who gets in and who's not, within like a 30-second framework like happens in other ICOs. But that was a mistake because Ethereum network completely crashed, and it crashed for more than an hour. So we couldn't get any transaction almost through in the first hour. So we extended it for 3 hours just to hear from the people that we were like talking to that the transaction has been gone through. And we got a lot of criticism about that, and it was like a big story. So I would do that different. We never thought that we'll crash the network, but apparently you cannot be too careful with those new technologies. Yes?
Would you be able to share the liquidity pool size of those currency on board?
So, not exactly, and I'll tell you why. Because every currency, first of all, has its own currency in the liquidity pool. So you have EOS here, you have status here, you have cents here. You have everyone holds its own, but each one of those also holds BNT. Now they hold different numbers of BNT, and there's a good reason for that. So let's say I issue some crap coin, okay, and I put it on Bancor. I just made that up, crap coin, because I shouldn't use the real term, right? So I put it on Bancor, and let's say everyone is selling, like everyone is dumping in the first second. So what will happen is that this relay is going to get filled with your crap coin, and all the BNT is going to go out, because this is what happens when you dump. So you're going to get less BNT, and more crap coin, and the price will go down straight to zero, and until you have almost no BNT left. So the pool of BNT that each one is holding, it's actually very it's assigned to that token. So again, if the token is trash, then this pool would be lost. And those people who, the people that put those pools are the token issuers themselves. They don't even need to talk to us. They buy some BNT, they put some of their token, and that's it. They're done. They need to kind of submit a smart contract, which we usually do for them, in order to save them the effort. But that's all you need to do. Just deposit your token, deposit BNT, and you have guaranteed on-chain liquidity, including from your website through a widget that works with any Web3 wallet like MetaMask, Parity, whatever. So it's very important that each one will have its own BNT pool, because that's how you get access to the liquidity. This is again your bandwidth to the liquidity network. Yes, please. We need to finish.
Cryptocurrency and fiat currency. So let's say I have dollars and one of shekels on the other side. So how you manage liquidity with fiat currency?
So it's the same. It's really the same concept. The DAI that you should. This one is actually very similar to that, but you can essentially tokenize every asset on the planet, and that's one of the things that's so promising with those platforms, because you can take whether it's share or any currency of any country or bond or whatever, and you can just tokenize it and represent it using ERC20 Ethereum token. And when you do that, anything that you can tokenize, you can put on Bancor Liquidity Network. I mean, the real requirement is just putting those liquidity pool in the beginning that, by the way, you can always take it back. So it's not like you lost control of it. It's almost, financially speaking, it's like holding a basket of 50% your token and 50% BNT, and you own the basket, and it will behave like this basket, always keeping those ratio 50-50. So if one will go up, essentially, you sell of that and you buy of that. So it's like a basket, and that's the only requirement. It works with any currency, whether it's tokenized or whether it's native cryptocurrency. One last question?
Yeah.
Last question? Yes, please.
Hi, Eyal, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you again. Great presentation.
Thank you.
What do you think is the biggest thing that's sort of limiting your growth at the moment? What would you like to remove that limits your growth?
I think the biggest thing is that, honestly, I talk to people all the time about Bancor, and it always kind of surprised them that you can even do something like that. I can just have liquidity all the time. It doesn't compute. And most people, because they don't understand how it works, because they don't understand this logic that I try to kind of simplify here in some visualization, they don't think it works, or they don't know what it is that should be working. So it's really the kind of understanding, the acknowledgement, that Bitcoin may be starting to have today, that Ethereum may be in the beginning of getting people to understand its potential. I think this is our biggest challenge, for people to see that, to understand that, but it's happening. We see the network of tokens is growing every day now. We're adding like 1 or 2 tokens every day now, and we hope to see that grows to be one of the biggest destinations for everyone that want to convert any form of value to any other form of value. Thank you, everyone.